Ma'am, can we start?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with.
Ma'am, I'll start.
Okay.
Good afternoon to all participants for the afternoon session of FDP Phase 1. Uh, Today we have Dr. Sarasija Padmanabh. She is the speaker for today. Dr. Sarasija Padmanabh holds a PhD degree in molecular biology from Shemyakin Institute of Bioorganic Chemistry and Molecular Biology of the Russian Academy of Sciences. She was trained as a postdoctoral fellow at the Molecular Biophysics units of the Indian Institute of Science, a premier research institute in India. She has also completed her Bachelor's of Law from Annamalai University. Formally trained in the life sciences and chemistry, together with a background in law, has been perfect fit for the work she carries out. She brings over 18 years of incisive experience in the IP space across diverse technologies spanning pharmaceuticals, medical devices, molecular biology, organic chemistry, and material sciences, with special interest in green, frugal, and smart innovations. Besides consulting for IP facilitation firms, um, she is also involved herself passionately with the Indian government's mission of spreading IP awareness in the country under the aegis of VTPC and KSCST. She has also participated in bringing awareness to numerous schools, colleges, and India's MSMEs. She has been a study winner in more than three source studies by Article 1 Partners, one of the large patent search companies in the world. She has also won numerous InScope rewards. Recently, she has participated as an individual contractor and consultant in a collaborative effort to prepare a guide of identified inventions in the public domain by the WIPO and continues to participate in the efforts that are made by WIPO Match. Now, she is currently the tutor in the WIPO e-learning platform. Ma'am, on behalf of Department of Biotechnology, the Oxford College of Engineering, we are very pleased to have you as our speaker for today. So we welcome you for this session, ma'am. You can kindly take it over from here, ma'am.
Okay. So now, first of all, before I share the PPT, what I would like to do is, if you can see, I'll show this book to you, and I would recommend it very much for biotechnology. Can you see? Patenting in Biotechnology. That's the book. Can you see? Yeah. So I'll give you the details. It's called Patenting in Biotechnology, a Laboratory Manual. It's the 5th edition by Peter Ulfskov. It's a very good book, and it is very, very useful for Okay. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes, madam.
There is a lot of echo. Okay. Now, I would like to put a question to the audience, starting it out with a question. What do you understand by prior art? What is the meaning of this terminology, prior art? Can we see some answers in the chat box, which will be conveyed to me later?
So ma'am, the answer is already existing.
Already existing knowledge, correct. But already existing knowledge, where? You know, how? Any answers for that?
In the literature and in the documentation.
Again, this echo is coming. I am not able to hear you, sir. Okay, shall we try again? Where exactly will you find the prior art? The answers, please, in the chat box. Any answers?
Research articles, ma'am.
Okay. It's not only research articles. Like I have put it on the screen, prior art is any evidence that your invention is already known. Any evidence. It does not need to exist physically or be commercially available. It is enough that someone, somewhere, sometime previously has described or shown or made something that contains a use of technology that is very similar to your invention. Okay. So this is what is prior art. It is any evidence. It does not, it can exist physically, but even if it does not exist physically, or even if it is not available commercially, it can be prior art. Okay, just keep this in mind. Now, the main objectives of prior art search is 1, to generate ideas for R&D, 2, to avoid duplication of research, 3, to reduce significantly R&D investment, 4, to develop new technical solutions to problems, to evaluate specific technology, to plan new products, to identify state-of-the-art technology. Now tell me in the chat box, what do you understand by state-of-the-art? What do you understand by state-of-the-art? Any answers? Any answers for state-of-the-art?
Never been, ma'am, never been tried and pre-existing. And the novel technology. And next means currently available.
So it's exactly the opposite of all these answers. State of the art means that what already exists. Okay. That what already exists is state of the art. All right. It's very similar to prior art, but in everything. What is the current status of the art? The current status of the art is known as state of the art. All right. Now, prior art is done to find out what is it that already exists so that you can prove that your invention is novel, it is a new technical solution, that it does not exist in the prior art. That is the reason you do this search, okay, to plan new products, to find the legal status of patent applications, to assess the novelty and patentability. If something exists in the prior art or is part of state of the art, then it does not qualify as an invention. You want to find the market for commercialization. You want to update yourself on new technological trends. You want to monitor the competitors' research activity. You want to prevent infringement actions. For all these things, you need to do a prior art search. Question. Now, your research is on a wheel, okay? Your research is on a wheel and you do a prior art search on this wheel. You find a prehistoric cave painting of a wheel. Now, does this prehistoric cave painting of a wheel constitute prior art? Can we see some answers, please?
No, we cannot see.
It is not discovering the material.
Does this prehistoric painting of a wheel constitute pre-existing art or prior art on wheel?
Ma'am, it is answer is no, and it will not describe any material.
No, so the answer is wrong. The answer is yes. Anything that exists on the same topic as yours, all right, any part of your topic. Yours might be a very modern wheel, whereas this is describing a prehistoric model of a wheel, but it is the same concept. So this is prior art on a wheel. A prehistoric cave painting of a wheel is prior art on a wheel. It must have developed into another mode or in another fashion, but the beginnings are here, and this does constitute prior art. All right. The next question is a product not patented but existing in the market. It is not patented but exists in the market. Does this constitute prior art?
Yes, answer is yes.
Very good. Very correct. Anything that is existing and is sort of an evidence that it is known is prior art. An invention that is described in a journal but never became a product. An invention that is described in a journal but never became a product. Is that prior art?
Yes, the answer is yes, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, so now here is a prior art case. You see what happened? This is a story which I would like to use to illustrate the importance of prior art. So this is called the Donald Duck prior art case. So on September 14th, 1964, the freighter Al Kuwait capsized at the docks in Kuwait's harbor. The ship was carrying 5,000 sheep that started decomposing in the harbor's water. Since this threatened to contaminate the city of Kuwait's drinking water supply, the ship had to be raised as quickly as possible, bringing in cranes would have taken very long, and there was a risk that the ship will break. Now there was a gentleman by the name Karl Kroyer. He was a Danish inventor, and he came up with a method of raising the sunken ship by filling it with buoyant bodies fed through a tube. Then on December 31st, 1964, he filled the ship with 27 million plastic balls made of expandable polystyrene foam weighing so much, and the balls had been airlifted from Berlin to Kuwait, and he received patents for this method. In the United Kingdom, there is a patent number for it. It really does, it did exist, and in Germany. Now, the claim was buoyant bodies are inserted into a sunken vessel through a tube from a salvage ship. He further applied for a patent in Holland. Okay. But he did not get a patent. His application was rejected. Why? Because the examiner came up with this story by Carl Barks, the 1949 Donald Duck story. If you see, the comic strip shows the same principle. You see, it is on the sea bottom and on the surface of the ducks work like mad, ram those balls down the hose boys, ram them down, and then soon they are able to do it and she is going. So basically it's the same concept. All right. So what happened because of this? This was cited as prior art and he was not granted in Holland. Basically, the prior art that the examiner comes up with, that is what determines whether you will be granted a patent or not. So any evidence, it can even be a comic strip. All right. Now, patentability and prior art. There are certain exceptions to patentability in the biotechnological field, and these exceptions are related to balancing the following aspects. basically ethical issues and advantages. Okay, inventions whose exploitation would be contrary to ordre public or morality. Example, the use of human embryos. This is considered an ethical issue. What would be the advantage of it? For example, the possibility of treating a disease. So these things are examined by the examiner when they are looking at the prior art and look at whether to grant a patent or not. Okay. Now, can you please tell me whether a discovery, you discover something, would that be a patentable subject matter? Can we see some answers in the chat box, please?
The answer is no.
No. Why no? Any answers as to why no? That is correct. The answer is absolutely correct. But why no?
Answer is, ma'am, it is already existing and no novelty.
Brilliant. Very correct. So, mere discoveries are not regarded as inventions. A discovery that solves a technical problem. For example, iron ore is not patentable subject matter, but a method for extracting ore can be patentable. Iron resulting from the extraction process may be considered. Now, okay, so similarly, antibiotics from a natural microorganism, would this be patentable subject matter? Antibiotic from natural microorganism, would this be patentable subject matter?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Very good. Purified proteins for used as medicaments, would this be patentable subject matter? Purified proteins, these already exist in nature, but they are using it. Yes, very good. Isolated genes with an unexpected use, are these patentable subject matter?
No.
There is a problem in this question because we come against the ethical issues. Okay, so it depends on where it is and what the national laws entail. Okay, now you might have heard this story before. This is about the Kani tribe, the Tropical Botanical Garden and Research Institute in Kerala. There is something called Arogya Pacha. Okay, and it is Trichopus xylonicus, and it was known, and people, the tribals, they use it when they go for long distances on foot. So now this already is prior art, right? It exists in the indigenous knowledge. But if somebody manages to Jeevani, this company, it manages to make something, a restorative, bioimmuno-enhancing, anti-stress, anti-fatigue agent. Is this patentable subject matter?
Ma'am, there is an answer telling it is no.
It is no, because they are saying no because it is indigenous, it is known, but it was not used as a restorative or a bioimmuno-enhancing anti-stress, anti-fatigue agent. There is a human element. It has been modified such that it is possible to use it. So that's the reason it becomes patentable subject matter. It is a very subjective question, depends on the examiner's understanding of the entire subject, entire domain. See, the reason why we say no is because it already exists, right? Just as neem already exists, basmati already exists. How is it patentable subject matter? But the thing is, here they have done something to it. All right, there is an intervention, a human intervention in this case. All right, would detecting salicylic acid in willow be patentable?
No is the answer.
Yes, very correct. Why? Because it already exists there. You are only detecting it. However, would finding out that salicylic acid provides relief from headache be patentable?
Yes.
Yes.
There is a very big
Put it on here. Ma'am, there's a participant who says yes.
okay.
One more
Then-
yes.
Yes, all correct. Very good. So you've understood the difference between discovery and discovery in prior art and discovery which is of use and is patentable. So these concepts are clear. Now to make the searches, okay, the search in patent databases. So there are number of patent databases. There are free patent databases and paid databases. The free patent databases are like InPass for our Indian Patent Office, or the SpaceNet for the European Patent Office, Patent Scope for the WIPO Patent Office, USPTO for the United States Patent and Trademark Office. These are all free patent databases. Then there are subscribe, where nominal subscription to pay, and those databases for patents like Micropat, Thomson Innovation, Delphion. These are all patent PAT-based. These are all paid databases. The difference between free and paid databases. What is the difference between free and paid patent databases? Can I see some answers, please? What is the difference in between the free and subscribed patent databases?
Detailed searches are not available in free databases.
Any other answer?
A patent office is not connected with free databases.
Well, US Patent and Trademark Office runs the USPTO patent database search. We have our InPass database. So it's not necessary that it be connected, but very often it is.
And we have one more. We need to pay to get information from paid ones, while the
Yeah.
free ones give access free to any information readily.
That is absolutely correct. Over and above that, what happens in the free databases is it's not a very nice presentation of the data. The data is the same. Both the free and the paid, they access the same data from the patent offices. They access the data from the patent offices, but the presentation and how do you visualize it? How do you get your results out? And how do you interpret them? Those are different. In the free databases, you have to put in a little bit more effort, whereas in the paid databases, it comes in a form in which it is easy to infer and get that what you need. Okay, the information, the data that they are accessing is absolutely the same. All right. That is about the patent databases. And then there are also non-patent databases. I'm sure you understand for Elsevier publications, Springer publications, Google Scholar. These are all non-patent databases. Okay, so Science Direct, Thomson Innovation, all of this you can have non-patent. Okay, so now the situation and the kind of prior art search which you will do. If you thought you innovated something, you do a patentability search. When you are planning or you're completed a product launch, then you do a freedom to operate search. When you plan to license or you're accused of an infringement or involved in a litigation, then you do an invalidity or a validity search. You're in the middle of innovation and you're facing a stumbling block, you do design around searches. Planning to innovate, planning business expansion, planning a business strategy, you do state of the art search. Okay. So this is the situation and the kind of search that it calls for. All right. So what do you understand by a patentability search? When is it that you do a patentability search? Okay, can I see some answers in the chat box, please?
When we need to file a patent, Dr. Grace Prabhakar tells us.
Yes, but how, like what are the filters for a patentability search? When you do a patentability search, it is definitely to see what you've said, that is correct. But how? Basically, when you do a patentability search or a design around search, it's the same three filter or validity. You do the same three things. You look for novelty, inventive step, and industrial applicability. Those three filters which the examiner is going to look for. All right. This you must have, you must have been told in previous lectures. The three filters are novelty, inventive step, and industrial applicability. Novelty is absolute novelty. Nowhere in the world should it be made, used, or sold, or published, or whatever. Inventive step, nobody could have thought of it. And industrial applicability, that there is a utility for it. Okay, now what is an FTO? What is an FTO? This comes around, this is also a kind of a FTO search. What does that imply?
Shows active patents.
All right. FTO is something called freedom to operate. Okay. Yes, it shows active patents. That is correct. But it is a freedom to operate. That means that what you're going to make, use, or patent, or whatever, you're going to operate in that domain. That is not covered by, you're not going to be trespassing if you do that. If you operate in that particular technology, you're not going to be trespassing. All right. Last question is, what is a landscape study?
Type of organizational analysis. Then feasibility study.
Yeah, and it covers, basically it covers everything that is there in that technological space. It covers patents, it covers non-patent literature, it covers evidence of use, it covers every single thing which shows that this is the condition of the technology at this point in time. Okay, it's a complete review of literature of whatever is available. All right, so this is that. Now let us come to what are pre-search activities. Before you start a prior art search, what do you need to have in your on your checklist? You have to identify the purpose of the search, right? We have already spoken about types of searches: a patentability search, invalidity search, FTO, right? Landscape studies, all these are different types of searches. You have to identify the purpose of the search. Second, you have to understand what is the technology. Exactly what is it? What are the principles? What are the concepts? Then you have to identify the novel elements that you are looking at. Okay, you should know those really well. You should identify keywords and phrases. And then you should identify appropriate patent classes. So these are 5 steps which really have to be thoroughly done before you attempt a process which is called deconstruction. What happens in deconstruction? You identify novel elements. For example, if you have a medical device, okay, you have to identify the novel elements. Then you have, okay, it is a device, it has a form, it has parts, structure, how it functions, the effect it produces. If it is a process, what is the sequence of steps? If it is a combination of device and process, what is the end product? Does it not have an end product? Is it a chemical substance? Is it a new use? You see, you break it down. You break down what you want to search. You should have all the elements in front of you with the process of deconstruction. Now, let us take a loaf of bread. All right. Now, if you want to do a prior art search on a particular kind of loaf of bread, but you want to know the prior art. So what do you want to know? What all exists? Okay, let us say you're going to do a state-of-the-art search. So you break it up into component technologies and component ingredients. So what are the component ingredients? It could be flour, it could be liquid, shortening, yeast, dough conditioners, you see. And what are the component technologies? It would be sifting, mixing, leavening, kneading, baking, slicing. You've broken it up. You think you've broken it up? Is this all? Can you think of anything else? Any answers in the chat box, please?
No answers, ma'am.
Okay, so it's actually not because.
Ma'am, one answer, fermenting.
Okay, so here, for example, now when you're deconstructing, you're looking at component ingredients. I will come to the processes, and fermenting is a very valid answer. But let us look at the component ingredients. You can break it up even more. Can you see how big the breakup is on the slide? You see, you have component ingredients: liquid, flour, shortening, yeast, and dough conditioners. Then the flour could be soya flour, it could be wheat flour, it could be corn flour. If you take wheat flour, it could further be broken down into bleached flour, enriched flour, refined flour, whole wheat flour, gluten-free, etc. So each component, liquid, for example, the liquid could be water, milk, beer, buttermilk, yogurt, fruit juice. There can be other liquids. Shortening could be butter, vegetable oil, eggs, lard, yeast. There is one that I have put, but there could be other leavening agents, dough conditioners. You see this whole thing. So what you're doing is you're going from the generic into component technologies. This is all. When you are on the left, it is generic, and you go into component technologies here. So very specific things. You have to have all this on the list that you make. Now, here, for example, I have missed, I should put in fermenting. That is very correct. So component technologies, I had sifting, mixing, leavening. Leavening is also partly fermenting. I have not elaborated on that, but very good point. Sifting, mixing, leavening, kneading, baking, slicing. Sifting comes up into sifter. You have Again, a component technology here, device, sieve, colander, whisk. Mixing, you also have a food processor. Leavening, we might have some other things like a 37 degrees or 40 degrees incubator. Kneading, you could manually do it. You could use a food processor. Baking, what kind of ovens are possible? Slicing, you can have it manual or mechanized. So you see, this is the entire deconstruction that you need to have if you want to do a landscape study on a loaf of bread. Okay, so that's key. That's the key to a good prior art search, is a proper deconstruction. Here for biotech people or pharma related, I have taken the product diclofenac. Now, if you're taking diclofenac, how would you break it down? Can I see some answers? And then we'll go through what I have here. If you, okay, I won't show it to you. If you take the compound diclofenac, how are you going to break it down? Some answers, please. Any answers?
Biological and chemical activity, then
Yeah.
enzymatic activity,
Yeah.
fermenting.
No, fermenting doesn't come with diclofenac. Diclofenac is a pain reliever. So you want to do a search with diclofenac. Okay, so what is the kind of breakdown? So what will you have? You will break it down. It is already a compound, right? Diclofenac is a known painkiller. So what will you?
Microbial activity, then enzymatic activity, chemical breakdown. So
How will you break it? So chemical breakdown is where we are headed. When you're looking at a compound like diclofenac, how will you, if you have a chemical compound, so you are going to look at its structure, okay, basic structure. Can you see the structure, a generic structure here displayed on the slide? Right, where X is any halogen, R is anything, and then
there are few more answers, ma'am. It says pharmacodynamic and pharmacokinetic studies have to be carried out. Then metabolites from enzymatic activity, they help in breaking down.
Very good, but what we need now is how would you deconstruct diclofenac?
Oxidation reaction, that is another answer.
Yeah, no, we need to deconstruct diclofenac for a patent search. So what you need is the chemical structure, which can be generic. Then you need the various trade names, for example, Voltaren, Caltaflam, and then you need the various chemical names, the formulae. You need those. How can it be? How is it usually? The nomenclature, how is it written? Exact structure, and what kind of, whether it is natural, synthetic, single phase, two phase, gel formulation, pseudoplastic, thixotropic, elastic, rigid, topical product, etc. Diclofenac is available in any chemist shop. Now we need to do a landscape study on it. So what do we break it down as? So this is a sample of how you would break down a compound which is available in a chemist shop. You need the structure, the generic chemical structure. Then you need the various trade names. Then you need the various chemical names. Then you need the exact structure and whatever else is associated with it. Okay. So just get this clear. Any questions so far? On deconstruction. Any questions so far on deconstruction?
No, ma'am, we've not received it.
Okay, so we'll continue then. Deconstructing a transgenic multivitamin corn variety, for example. Okay, so you have a transgenic multivitamin corn variety. So you will see the source. What is the source? Then you look at the processes: vector cloning, combinatorial genetic transformation, particle bombardment, plant regeneration and selection. These are the processes associated with a transgenic multivitamin corn variety. Then what are the gene constructs and what are their individual elements? So you have all the gene constructs. I have taken a few samples, and then you take each one of those constructs and break it further. All right. So that's how you will deconstruct and have all these keywords in your kitty before you go into a patent search. Example, for example, for cardiovascular disease, you're going to do a landscape study. You will have this kind of a keyword string. This is called a string. Okay, for cancer. So what are the search thing? For example, cardiovascular disease, arrhythmias, cardiac, carcinoid heart disease, cardiac output, then tamponade, cardiomegaly, whatever you can find, you have to have it together. Cancer or anti-cancer or chemotherapy, oncology, carcinoid. What does the star indicate? Does anybody know the star? When you say oncol and you put a star, or you do carcinoid G and put a star, what does that star indicate? Can I see some answers in the chat box, please?
No answers, ma'am.
Okay, it means it's like the root has been put. So carcinogenic, oncological, you can have the extensions. You're removing the extensions, and if there can be a variation in the extension, that is all included in that star. That's what it means. Okay, this is called stemming. Okay, so we go on. So what are the types of operators and wildcards which are available? So here I have taken a few of the free patent search tools that we have: PatentScope, SpaceNet, and DPatisNet. And how is "and" used in a keyword search? If you say A and B, what does that indicate? Can we have some answers, please?
One page.
No answers, ma'am.
Okay, so let us go, we all are familiar with Venn diagrams, right? We all know what Venn diagrams are. Yes or no on the chat box?
Yes.
Maybe WhatsApp.
Okay. So you have a set A and you have a set B. And if the operator is union, okay, if the operator is union, A union B, what is it that you will get? A union B, what will you get? Is all the elements of A and all the elements of B, right? So that is equivalent to an OR in Boolean operators. That is the equivalent of an OR. Okay, if you have a set A and you do A intersection B, what is it that you will get?
Both A and B.
A and B, and this is more specific. It is going to be more specific. It is going to be very few answers. Whereas when you do A union B, you will get a bigger set, right? So these concepts you have to get clear about the operators: and, or, and not. Not A, not B means even if there are some things common to A and B, those are also removed. Only A, okay? So these are operators. Wildcards, like when you change precisely one character. More proximity, when you say near 5 words, near 10 words, you want the other one, okay? So, and other limitations we won't go into now because it's a little detailed. Okay, now has anybody told you about the International Patent Classification System so far?
No, ma'am, nobody's dealt with that subject.
Okay. So patents, you see, patents are being filed all over the world all the time, and it's going to be difficult to search. So what they've done is they have classified them just like a library classification. You have A to H, and these are the different classes: human necessities, performing operations, transporting, chemistry, textiles, mechanical engineering, physics. And in A, then you again go deeper: human necessities, A61. So these things I cannot teach in one lecture. You have to go to the patent databases and try these out. What we are going to do now is I'm going to stop presenting this PPT, and I'm going to take you to Patent Scope, and I want you to go with me, try and do what I am doing on your desktop so that you understand the process of patent searching. All right. So I'm going to stop searching, stop presenting, and I'm going to take you to Patent Scope. Okay, so now I need to share the screen. Open share tray, and I have to go here, I think. Yeah. So can you see the Patent Scope screen?
Yes, ma'am. It says simple search.
Yeah. Is everybody able to see this? Can you all access this in on your respective devices?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now in this, I want to cover a lot, but I don't know how much I will be able to. There is a lot to share for biotech. So what is very special about Patent Scope is it has a COVID-19 update. Can you see that? On top?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that okay? If you click on that, what you will see is all the changes that have come to the patenting system. Click on it and take a look. Okay. And then here there is new search facility to support COVID-19 innovation efforts. Can you see that? In very fine print on the top. New search facility to support COVID-19 innovation efforts. You can click on that and you will see, is this being shared now? Am I with you still? Patent Scope COVID-19 index. Is that visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you see, what you see is artificial respiration, diagnostics, disinfection, informatics, medical equipment, medical facilities and transport, medical treatment, prophylactic, therapeutic, personal protective equipment. Now, if you click on any of these, artificial respiration has two classes. You see, there are two classes. One is artificial respiration or heart stimulation, example, heart massage. Devices for influencing the respiratory system of patients by gas treatment, example, mouth-to-mouth respiration. And the query is here. You can look at it by clicking there, and you will see that classification you get the entire result in front of you. Just with one click. You don't even have to make any search query or anything. This is something which has been done by the WIPO so that research and studies on COVID-related aspects is simplified. Did you see what happened just now? You want me to go over it again?
Hello?
Ma'am, I think we can continue.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I remember.
See, if you go here, you will get all these, and these are already bucketed. They're all classified. Similarly, if you go for diagnostics, all the classes of diagnostics are given here, and all the results will be available here. The query and what are the keywords. The query is, you will get the answers if you click on this. If you want to see what are the keywords, you can go here. It will be highlighted. You can see all the keywords are highlighted. You see? Did you see what happened just now? Can you see the highlighted COVID related keywords?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
It's visible. Am I with you? Are you understanding what I'm doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So artificial respiration, diagnostics, disinfection, informatics, medical equipment. So can you please try out and see whether you can get the classes and the keywords by the simplified COVID index search, please. And tell me if there is any question on the COVID index. Any questions so far?
Nobody has posted any questions so far.
Okay, so it's all fine. I will presume it's all fine. And I will request that when you go back, when you have your leisure time after the webinar, do take a look at this once again, refresh your minds, because it's a very important and useful index. Okay. Now what I want you to do is, in this drop down menu in the search, there are a few categories: simple, advanced search, field combination, cross-lingual, and chemical compounds. So in the simple one, it is very, very simple. Like here, you can put your terms. For example, let us say, what shall we say? Electric car. Just by the way of example. So it will just give you the answers. Resolve an electric car will all be highlighted all over the place, right? It's very, very simple. Okay, to do this search. So can you simply put in your words and do a simple search? Click on simple search and do a quick search to figure out how this particular search mechanism works.
Any term could be given, ma'am?
You can give any term, one term, because it's a simple search. So you just put in whatever you have in your mind. For example, plasmid constructs, or whatever related to a biotech, or blue script, or anything that you think is of use to you. Just put that and hit the search button, just to see how the terms are highlighted and how you get the result list. Is it working?
Yes, ma'am, working.
Excellent. Now what we'll do is, we've given time for simple. Now we go to field combination. Take the third one, and you see there is a field combination interface. So here what they have is, for example, each one has a drop down. So here you have any field, WIPO publication number. So you have all, if you go here, you have abstract, title in different languages. So if you select abstract for a couple of fields, and here you, for example, I'm going to take a generic version. I'm going to do electric, and here are the operators. So operator, I'm going to use and. So you see what are the operators that are available to you. If you do here is and or. There are just two operators. So if you take, I'm going to take and I'm going to put car here. You understood what and or do, right? Or is a union and is the intersection. So similarly, you have to use the operators. You can use any of these things. You can use abstract, you can use title, claims, description, anything. Put this and hit the search button. Hit the search button. You should be able to get results and you should get all of them highlighted. Okay. So here there is also a thing for you want it stemmed or you don't want it stemmed and you want a single family member. You click on single family member, it will reduce the numbers. Why? That will depend whether you understand what a family member is in patterns. That is not within the scope of searching, a lecture on searching, but you have to understand that concept before you do that. So if you get this, then I would request you hit that search and go to the field combination and do a quick search for your respective domains. Is it happening?
Yeah, madam.
Okay.
Got it, ma'am. We are able to do it.
You're able to do it. Now quickly I will show you, there are some videos here. I am not sure whether I will be able to play it and you will be able to hear it, but I'm going to take this chance and try it. Okay, so let me just do the feed combination. Tell me if you can hear the video. Slow, but it should work. Mm, Were you able to hear that?
No, ma'am, the audio clarity is not there.
Okay, well, anyway, whatever was shown, I have shared with you already. So what I would say is, if you go to the help menu, it's right on top, next to where you log in, the help menu, you see the help, right? Do you see the help menu?
Yes, ma'am.
And here it says how to search. It has a user's guide. You have the query syntax, field definition, the classification fields, tutorials, and webinars. So in this, if you go to the query syntax, you will get how to make your, for example, car or engine or electric car, stemming, how it is done, what fields, what everything is, how to put in your numbers, date of publication. You can even go for a range, from this date to this date, right? All of this is available in the query syntax. And you could also, let us, what else you could do? Fields definitions, I've already said. Wildcards, I've told you. There are tutorials. This is very, very useful. If you go to the tutorials, it tells you everything, how to do the substructure search, language, supervised thing, search result list, how it happens. So go to the tutorials, you register yourself for the webinars, you will be able to do this. Now, I also want to show you a chemical compound search. For example, we will just quickly take diclofenac and show you how it is to be done. We will search for the scaffold. Just bear with me on the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Diclofenac, and you get all the results. Now I also, and you see here you have the INCHI key keyed in. Now if I go back, and if you do, for example, okay, so you do structure editor. You can even, for example, okay, let me see how to do this thing. The best way to go about it. So you get the structure of diclofenac, right? You asked for it in the editor, correct? You've got the structure. Can you see the structure of diclofenac?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now you can search for scaffold, right? It tells you what it does. It reduces the search to a fixed part of the chemical compound, right? Now, what you do is you evaluate it. You've evaluated it. Now you do an exact search and you get your results. Okay. So here you have, now here what you do is, when you go to any of the patent applications, enter it, right? And you go for compounds, right? And you say, where do you want to, this is the compound, where do you want to see it? In the description. Okay, go to the description and it will tell you, these are the related compounds. Where is this one located? It will show you where it is related, sitting. So, it will be highlighted like this. You understood how to locate the compound in a description?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, I can go to another one, another result. You have the compound and you want to Where do you want to see the compound? In the claims? Let us go to the claims. Where is it? Okay, this one. Where is it in the claims? Let us see. Okay, so here it is. It is some Japanese or Chinese one, but it finds it out for you. The structure is right there. It's beyond language boundaries, beyond language limitations. All right. So here is something which is of great value, right? And you have to try it out. Go to the website and try this tool out. And I've given you a brief introduction to the patent scope. Which patent database are you all familiar with? Which one do you use for your review of literature?
Ma'am, IPO?
IPO. Which one is that? Are you able to see my screen on Google Patents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so have you tried this ever, Google Patents?
No.
Okay, so here we do the same thing like I introduced you to Patent Scope. Now I'm introducing you to Google Patents. Very quickly, we just go. Please type this on your screens. It's very simple. It's not, Patent Scope is more detailed. This is just very, very easy. Just type in some keywords to get your result list. I am typing in electric car to give you a result list. In this, what happens is you will get it in bold. Your keywords will come in bold. Okay, and here you can deduplicate by family. You can tell the number of results and sort by relevance. You can also download, even in Patent Scope, you can download your result list into an Excel sheet. You can do the same with Google. The result list can be downloaded. And here you can give same thing. If you do electric or battery, all the synonyms after deconstruction, whatever you get, you can put over there. Here you can put car or locomotive, right? And you can give a search. You can give the dates, for example, 1990 to 2020. Okay, so it will give you and here there is a list. You can go down to date, which kind of dates you want, priority or publication, which patent office you want to search in, the PCT, United States, IN is the code for India if you're interested, right? And in Google, you can download the original one. Okay, and you here it gives you the translated version automatically. All right, and the original one, if you download, can you see the PDF file of the Chinese patent? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
So this is the Chinese patent, but on Google Patents, you already get the translated one. All right. Okay, so now what else? I'll go back to results. Now here you can download. I'll show you the downloading also. So here in the bottom, you get an Excel sheet. Do you see that Excel sheet here? Can you see the little icon of the CSV page on the left-hand corner of my Google Patent search results list?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that would be I'm opening it and I'm hoping that, so here is the result list. Similarly, can you download your result lists, please? and tell me that you're able to download. Put in your search keywords, do your quick search. Are you able to download the Excel sheet, everyone?
Yes, madam.
Excellent. Very good. So that was
But
a brief. Yeah, tell me.
title is not coming.
Huh?
Title of the patent is not coming. Only patent number and other details are coming.
It cannot be. It has to be there. Title is the second column. The patent number is A and B is to be title. I've inserted and see this is how it has to be. Can you see the Excel sheet on my screen?
Yeah, madam.
So title is there. For example, foldable electrical vehicle. Electric vehicle.
Okay.
First,
Mine I gave it as a flavored water, and it is in mix. English as well as Chinese language is coming.
it will come. Yes,
Okay.
it will come in a mix because that is how. But now further to make it easy for you, another thing I'm showing. Can you see my Excel sheet?
Yeah.
Here what you can do is how I work with data, because data is very huge. So you put hyperlink, and where is your link? It is, for example, here, right? This is J3. So you put in J3 and you put A3, for example. Then you close this and you can pull this down. You will get all of them hyperlinked. I can do it like this. And then what you do is, if you click on any of this, it will take you directly to the Google page of that foldable electrical vehicle. Can you see that it has come to the Google patents?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you please do it on your Excel sheet, please?
I got it.
Yes. Yes, madam.
Excellent.
Yes.
So now we come back to my PPT. That was a brief introduction into Google patents and patent scope. This is by far, by no means it is complete. Okay, for a tutorial or for a hands-on session, you need at least 15 days to practice to get a hold. And I've been doing this for more than 20 years. So it takes that much time to get familiar with these databases. Please go home and please check on how much, what you need to do and how you can improve yourself, familiarize yourself with this database. It's very, very important. Okay, but it is not complete. What I have told you is just a brief introduction. Now we come back to the PPT and I have a question for you, which is, how long is a patent valid for?
20 years.
20 years is the correct answer. From which date? 20 years from when?
Data filing the application.
Excellent. Now, what happens after the 20 years are over?
It
Become
goes into
public.
public domain.
Very good. It goes into the public domain. If it goes into the public domain, what does that mean?
Anybody can modify that. Anybody
Yes.
can.
Excellent. That anybody can make, use, or sell that, but you cannot patent, right? Because its novelty will be killed. No, it is not novel, but anybody can make, use, or sell. Next question is, what is the meaning of patents are territorial in nature? What do I mean when I say that?
It is valid in that particular territory.
It's valid only in that particular territory. If I patent in India, I am protected only in India. I am not protected in China. Okay.
Yes.
Keep that in mind when I'm showing you this example, which is called the business model canvas example of a shoe charger. Okay, Mr. Butua, he has a finished market-ready piezoelectric shoe phone charger. It is a pressure-based mobile phone charger. It is a device installed inside a shoe's inner sole, and walking motion exerts pressure on the crystal. Now, here is the patent for it. It is filed in US. You see the country code is US. It is by Bradbury Face, and this is the circuitry and all that, and this is his product. Now, he is able to make this, but how? It is patented here, but it is not patented in Kenya. He's able to use this technology and make business out of it. To make that business, what he needs is key partners, key activities, key resources, cost structure, etc. All right, this is called a business model canvas. And he filled it with all the important things that he needed. Now, from a biotech point of view or from a COVID-19 point of view, let us look at this application. It is, okay, it's a self-sanitizing face mask and method of manufacture, okay? So there is a US patent application for it, and we examine its legal status. It has been filed only in the US. Can the business model canvas be used with India in mind? My question to the audience, can this be used with India in mind? Think of it from a prior art perspective. It is filed only in the US. Patents are territorial in nature. Any answers?
Ma'am, no.
Why no?
Ibrahim also says no.
Okay. So if it has not been filed in India, it has been filed only in the US, why no?
Territorial in nature, that is the.
That means it is protected only in the US. It is not protected in India. So why can't we make it in India? Okay. Another example for COVID-19, that is an antiviral formulation, nanomaterials and nanoparticles. This is the patent. It is being filed in the United States. Okay. This is the US patent number, US 2010, publication date February 18, 2010. Okay. We are looking at it in the context of the business model canvas. We examine its legal status. It has been filed in the PCT. WO is there. Now, can this business model canvas, can it come on the business model canvas?
Yes, it can be used.
So what we have to do is we have to see when within the PCT, does it look at India? Has it been filed in India? So you look at it. If it is protected in India, then of course you cannot make, use or sell that what is already protected by somebody else in India. So when you look, you see that that person has entered India and that is the patent number, or the application number. And these are the documents which are available to see. The examiner's report is there. You look, it is under the title virucidal materials. You look what it is there in the examiner's report. The examiner says novelty is being challenged by a Japanese application, which says the particles comprising zinc and titanium reducing virus transmission. And it also gives you another one here. That is the abstract: to provide an antibacterial metal spattering mask suppressing the multiplication of miscellaneous viruses. This is what the examiner has quoted. Okay, and he says you don't have novelty, you're requested to comply with the objections by 2014. Then you go back and you look whether he has complied with the objections, fulfilled whatever is needed. As far as I could see, he hasn't. So if he hasn't, that means this has gone abandoned. It has come into the public domain. Now, can this technology be used and such masks be made in India? Because it has been abandoned. This is abandoned in India.
Yes.
Yes, very correct. So all you need to do is you have to fill in the business model canvas, see what is the existing technology, find out for sure from the patent office what is the status, and you can make a business out of it. All right, so that's basically what I have for you. And I also would like to introduce you to something which is called WIPO Match. It is a platform on the WIPO which sort of brings inventors and their technologies. It gives international visibility. You don't need to get stuck about how to take it to market. Go to the WIPO website and look up WIPO Match. So you will feel a little more enthusiastic as to how to become entrepreneurs. That's all I have to share with you today. Any questions?
Participants, if you have any queries, please post it in the chat box.
What I would suggest is go back to Google Patents and go back to Patent Scope, put in your keywords and do a search. That is the best way to, get the maximum out of this lecture.
No questions, huh?
I guess we are done.
Participants, if you have any queries,
You can post afterwards. First we ask her the questions.
or you can unmute yourself and ask the query also. Ma'am, question from a participant. Other than these two, any other places where we can do search on prior art?
Patent prior art you can do on SpaceNet, you can do on InPass. There are lots of patent databases, but I would suggest you start with Google Patent and Patent Scoop. Those are the easiest. So I hope it was useful for all of you. Yeah, and thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your highly informative talk on this. And we would like to have one Saturday session, maybe a practice session for our members.
Yeah.
Maybe the forthcoming phase 2 we will plan it. As Prabhavati Madam was highlighting, it will be nice if we have a practical session with ma'am. So probably from the March 8 to March 20, we have second session. We will have one exclusive day for patent search, peer search. So we request your kind consent to be among with us for doing that.
Sure, we can arrange that. That is not a problem. But we need, more active participation. I would like that people try it out.
Probably participant might have not brought their devices, it seems, because we inform them. So that may be the reason for passive participation. But next time we'll make sure that we'll intimate them to bring their laptop or other devices for the session, and we will have a live session, madam.
Sure.
Salma, madam.
So I'll take leave then.
Ma'am, on behalf of the Department of Biotechnology, the staff, students, and the management, we extend you a very heartfelt gratitude for this wonderful presentation and the workshop what you have given related to the patent search. And so many of us were not aware that we can do the patent search using this platforms. So we thank you for enlightening us with all this information related to prior search. And once again, on behalf of the staff, students, and management of the Department of Biotechnology, Oxford College of Engineering, we extend you a very heartfelt gratitude for this wonderful information. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, madam.